My next spring break project is changing up the lighting in room 211.
Buckle up for safety as I give you a day in the life of online. No, not online. I'm actually there. Facilities maintenance.
Room 211 used to be a classroom, and what we have are two lighting circuits. Now one bank of lights runs down the center of the class, and the other bank of lights runs through where all the pods have now been constructed. They were added in afterwards, and what we need to do is to have the pods individually switched. So that's what I'm doing now. I've just removed all the ceiling tiles so that I can gain access to the top of the wall, because I need to drop switch legs down into each individual pod. And then this wire right here, which runs up to that junction box in the ceiling over there, that is our power leg coming in. And currently they just all daisy chain between all the lights all the way down. So what I'm going to do is take that power lead and run it into a junction box, and then from there branch out individually to each of the pods with switched power to the light fixture that's already there. I've taken the power for the pod lights, brought it to this junction box here. And what I think I'm going to do, so I don't have to pull such long runs from the pods that are far away, is put another junction box a couple of trusses down and tie that straight to this one here. And then I can pull 2 rooms from this one and 2 rooms from the junction that I'll have further down. Alright, so I've got my junction box here. That's the first one. And if you follow the lead all the way down, you can see way down there, there's the other one. So now, time to start dropping switch legs. I just had to grab my stud finder because I'm going to punch a hole down here to fish my switch leg down, but I need to know where the stud is. There. Lay it over on the room side, so it basically landmarks exactly where I need to place the switch box. Just give you a different angle so you can see exactly what we're looking at here. See, this is the wall right here where I am dropping switch legs down. There'll be 2 wires down eventually. One will come back up to the light and one will go down to the switch, if that makes sense. Alright, our next step is to put the switch boxes in, and for that I'm going to use one of these. These go by a couple of different names. Easy boxes, I've heard them called, or a renovation box, I think is what the big box stores refer to them as. The nice thing about these is you can see these clamps here. So essentially what that is a clamp. I just cut the exact size of the box. It's 2 inches by 4 inches, and these collapse, and I slide them in and I tighten it up, and it is anchored. So and 3 more where that one came from. Okay, I've got all my wires pulled. One of the wires is heading up to the light, and one is heading over to the power source. So the power source will come down, go to one side of the switch, and out the other side of the switch will head off to the light. So now it's time to install the boxes for the light switch. just like that. I can sure see why when electricians do this on a daily basis. They like to work off a small scaffold. Because going up and down the ladder and then standing on a tiny little step, it hurts the body. Lower back gets sore, calves get tight. You got to be careful not to lock out your knees too much. It's hard. I guess I'm saying all this because up there is where I need to go next. Okay, so next up is to make all the connections I need to do in my two junction boxes that are going to supply power to everything. So this is my main power coming in, my main supply. This is running off to the other junction box at the other end of the room. Now I have to bring in my power from the two switches. This is the one in pod number 1 and pod number 2, and right here. Now it's just a matter of matching up the colors and connecting them all together. Black are my hot legs. White are my neutral returns. And bare copper grounds everything. It's good to be grounded. Something I'm doing here is I group all the wires together like that. And then I cut them all off at exactly the same length. Like that. When I strip them, and then go to twist and wrap them together. Makes life easier. Grab them with my pliers, like so. I like to twist them together first. Well, I mean, that's actually a code requirement. Twisting them together first. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, all my switch runs are powered. That is my power coming into the box. That is going to pod 1. This is going to pod 2. And this run here is going to the far junction box over here. And that is going to pod 3. And that is going to pod 4. So all the power is running down to the switches now, or to the switch boxes, I should say. All right, these are switch boxes. So power is coming down here and then heading back up to the lights. Now I just need to open up all the lights and make our connection up there. So I'm inside pod 1, and are you seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, it's a problem. Shoot. Because it's not possible to actually change the bulbs on these lights, because the light sits on the top plate of the wall.
And it's like this in all 4 pods.
Okay, where am I going with this? It's a good time to upgrade to LED panels. Yeah, an LED flat panel's coming in here. So, yeah, I'm going shopping. Morning, and welcome back. Let me catch you up. So yesterday, I ran into a bit of a snag here because I went to wire in the lights in the pod, and as you can see, they sit on top of the wall, meaning
Not only could I not open the hinged cover to access the wiring,
you can't even change a light bulb, short of actually physically removing the whole fixture from the opening. And so, what I did after work yesterday was I zipped out to the store and picked up 4 flat panel LEDs. So they're getting their upgrade. Then we won't have to worry about changing bulbs down the road. And I can just drop them in the openings after I remove the old fixtures and wire them from above. I don't need to get at them from below. So it'll make life a lot simpler. The simplest thing would have been to have the wall 4 inches over, but c'est la vie. Okay, the old fixtures are out and the new flat panel LEDs are in. And I made sure with these ones that they're dimmable. So they will have that level of control if they wish to put dimmer switches in the pods. It's an improvement for sure. So I think this is as good a time as any to take you through the process, step by step, of what is involved in wiring up a fixture. So, covers, take them off. Because what that's going to do is get us to the inner workings of what we're dealing with. Now, these are actually half decent wire nuts. A lot of times a manufacturer will supply wire nuts and they're junk and I throw them away. But these ones are usable, so I'm using them. I like to kind of tease out my wires so I know what I'm working with. It's my ground wire. This bare copper wire is always your ground. Black one is going to be hot, where the power goes. And this white one is neutral. Think of electricity as water. It kind of needs a path to flow, and it's always going to flow in the path of least resistance. And you can't just supply power to something and have it stop. It'll dam up. Power will come into the light fixture through here, but then it's got to go somewhere, and it goes out the other side through the neutral. Now, in terms of the least resistance theory, this is where the ground is concerned. In case anything shorts out, the most important wire in this whole setup here is this ground wire. And as such, I will always connect that one first before doing anything else. What I'm doing now is just putting in a fitting here that allows me to secure my power feed that's coming from the switch. That's be the new switch that I put down in the wall. Now it's important to put it in a fitting like this, as opposed to just sticking it through the knockout hole, because if anything ever catches on this wire, you don't want it to tug out, because that is going to lead to issues. Alright, so now I'll tease apart these wires. Again, white is my neutral, black is my power, and the bare copper wire is my ground. I'm going to connect my ground first. Now, it's always tricky. If your wires are the same type of wire and they're the same gauge of wire, you pre-twist them together. But when you got something like this that is actually stranded wire, multi-strand wire, you can't twist them. It just doesn't work. Line those ends up so they're dead even, and then you put the wire nut on and you'll feel it bite. It'll get tighter and tighter until you can't turn it anymore, and that's what you want. That'll pass any tug test and won't come off. So now I tuck that down below. Next I'll take my 2 white wires here, cut them off to the same length, because that makes life easier. Now these ones, it's kind of the same thing, even though you'll see
This is a solid wire. But look at the difference in the wire gauge size, right? So I could never twist those together. This silver colored one is just gonna wrap around. So again, butt the two ends together and turn that nut on. Give it a tug to make sure it's not gonna come off. Tuck it down in place. Same thing with the black wires. I also want to make sure when the wire nut's on that I don't have any exposed wire below the wire nut too, because then it's not going to do the insulation job that it needs to do. So, tuck that down. Now, if you're wondering about these other two wires, this LED panel is dimmable, and that's where these wires come in. So I'm not going to cut them out of there. I'm just going to roll them up and tuck them away. Should we ever wish to upgrade to a dimmer switch in the future, then we'll be able to do so. And that's what done looks like. All right, time to clean up and move on to the next one. So all the old fixtures are out. The new LED flat panels are in. And I'm finishing off all the high work right now. What I mean by that is anything that happens above the ceiling. I'm not even exaggerating when I say I've moved this ladder 100 times. I've been up and down the ladder 100 times. I've had to move it in and out of the pods. And so I'm at the point now where I'm just kind of sweeping my way back. So
As I'm working my way across the classroom, connecting the LEDs, I'm also cleaning up
any wiring and garbage behind me, zip tying things so they are just up and off the ceiling. It's always a good practice to not leave wires and cables laying on the ceiling, because that way anytime anyone needs to do any servicing up here, invariably what happens is you have cables falling down. And yeah, it's, you're up on a ladder, you're trying to maintain your balance, you might have something in your hands, and it's just good to not have things in the way. Nothing that's going to fall down on your head, whatnot, distract you.
Alright, so above the ceiling,
Everything is done. It's a nice, pretty happy with all of that. That's a nice clean installation all the way down onto the switches. Now some switches have those little holes in the back that you can just stick the wires in. And you know what I always say? Oh, you don't? Well, I'm going to tell you. Don't use them! Never use them. Always connect the terminal. Those little push to fit things are just ridiculous. I've seen firsthand how they short out. They don't make good connections, they short out. And when you get a short, you better hope that nothing in the vicinity is flammable, because eventually that's going to start to burn. But when you hard connect them, basically strip the end of the wire, make them into a little U shape, and then put them around the terminals, they will, if you've done it correctly, never come off. I mean, I have nothing against the DIY. I'm a DIYer myself. And I do a lot of work at home on my own place. The problem is that there's no measure of regulation or control, and that's the issue. It's not that DIY guys don't know how to do stuff. It's just that if no one's looking over their shoulder, and people take shortcuts. Right? Oh, it'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, your house could burn down, buddy. seen it. I was a home inspector for 13 years, and I've seen so many fires waiting to happen. I've seen fires. Been up in attics where big hollowed out spaces where there was a fire, and it's just fortunate that the type of insulation that was up there was not combustible. Okay, let's test this one. Just gonna turn the power on. Okay, cleaned up. I put the room back the way it was, and intentionally I've left all the pod lights on so that when they come in the morning and they turn on their lights and everything comes on at the same time, they'll go, oh, I thought he was going to do that. I guess he didn't get a chance. And they will be fooled.